Dude, pointed stick.
Pointed stick! Pointed stick!
Pointed stick.
Pointed stick.
Pointed stick?
Pointed stick!
Whoa, pointed stick.
That pointed stick.
Pointed stick!
Pointed stick. We don't have any time for your trolling behavior on this channel. It just isn't welcome here. And so, good riddance to you.
Let me fix the screen here real quick. And so this came across my feed last night. Let me make sure everything's working properly. So I can't see my bubble talking. All right, there we go. So this came across my feed last night. I watch Julian Dorey once in a while. I'm very hot and cold with him. I think he does a pretty good job. He's getting better. His production's getting a lot better. I think he took some notes from Tim Pool there, but as far as his cameras and stuff. But he has had some crackpots on from time to time. I generally like watching him for FBI, CIA guys, SEAL team guys, just, talk about experiences, stuff that's legit. But he does have some, how you doing, Matt? He does have some stuff from time to time that's a little off the deep end. And anytime someone starts talking about helicopters shooting people in Vegas, I pretty much tune out of your channel completely at that point, because I know where that came from. And so for some weird reason, if that ever comes out to be true, I'm still going to say the dude that started that rumor, started all that stuff, is he knows he's full of shit. So, yeah. That would be the clock, broken clock hidden. But this guy here, a little background. This guy's it's like some weird, not computer hacker. He's like a cell phone guy. Because I don't want to, this is a 3-hour video. If you want, it's in I linked it in the description of this video. You can go watch the whole thing. It is very interesting. It's kind of scary and sketchy. But this dude's some marketing dude that was using, oh God, I don't know. He was somehow being able to trace and track cell phone data. And I guess he did do some, and he said it's out there public, so it's legit, that he somehow tracked a bunch of operators from, hey, how you doing? Good to see you, Jeff. He tracked a bunch of operators from the military, the high tier guys and all that sort of stuff, by looking at the cell phone data at a particular army base or whatever, military base. And from there, he watched where they went. It went to like Syria, and then those cell phones ended up, in some neighboring community and stuff like that. And supposedly, yeah, the government was very interested in how he was able to track down people that he shouldn't have been able to track down, even though he didn't know what he was looking at. He just knew that cell phones went from a base to Syria and then to some community outside of that base. So I think this dude's legit. What he's about to say here, what I'm going to play here, I don't know if it's legit. It's only about 10 minutes, I think. This was kind of clickbaited, because I had to watch, we're at 3 hours and 30 minutes of this just to get to the point where he's talking about Vegas. But it was an interesting episode, so I'm glad I watched it. But here, we're going to play a little bit of this. Hopefully y'all can hear it. Let me shut up for a minute.
Supervisory Special Agent Jeff Crocker, who is not an FBI agent that you want to be sitting across the table from in an adversarial relationship.
No, he mentions that name, and that name leads into him talking about Vegas. I don't know what that name has to do with Vegas, but I wanted to start this there.
He's 6'5", 6'6", but like, you're not. This is what we want FBI agents to be. What we expect them to be. He is no longer with government. He is no longer. He retired.
Okay.
But didn't have to retire. But he just sort of was like, I'm done.
There's a lot of guys, especially from the FBI, that were thinking that for several years there.
Yep. He is one of them. I've had enough. I've seen enough.
Yep.
I can continue banging my head against the wall, or I can, and he was a guy who we're still trying to prove this out as an FBI tool.
How you doing? That's a new name. That's a name I haven't seen before. Yeah, good CEO. So yeah, it takes the guy a little bit to lead into this, and it's very short. It's very short when he talks about Vegas, but they did name this. Vegas Shooter Paddock is in the title of this video, which, like I said, they kind of clickbaited me into this, but I'm glad I watched it.
And Stephen Paddock goes and shoots up a Jason Aldean concert in Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was the first guy he called, but it was within hours. You get that like call at 10 o'clock at night.
They wanted you working on the Las Vegas shooter in 2017.
Yep.
Did you?
Yep.
Now that's a weird story, man. That's a story. Anybody who's been around this for any period of time has heard that story before, but from somebody else. Which I don't know. It's interesting. It's just when I heard that, I was like, I've heard this story before, but not from this guy.
Okay, that's a very, very highly controversial, debated shooting, because it's one of, and I feel,
and that's awesome that this guy would say that, man. It's a very highly debated, controversial shooting. Welcome to this club, man. This shit show.
like this has now happened a few times since then, but it's one of those like, something happened, nothing to see here, no worries. Oh, by the way, a security guard that went on Ellen the next day, he's gone, no one heard from. Other people are dead. What the fuck happened there?
Now, Julian Dorey has very limited information on this. Again, he has a lot of crackpots on from time to time, so he has a lot of disinformation in his head about this thing. And, but he's coming at it from an angle of, I don't have a clue what happened here. So I'll give him the grace on that. But that's basically, his knowledge here, right? So he's going to say some things like Saudis and stuff like that are kind of like off the wall.
I was trying to establish transnational links because he was married to a Filipino woman.
Okay, this guy, Jeff, this guy is, he's a cell phone marketing guy. Again, you can watch the whole video. I believe the first 15, 20 minutes, probably first half hour is him explaining what he does. And what he did was he went out and he went and got the, I forget how he said they did it, because I don't think he said it worked off your IMEI from your phone. But he was able to buy data from people, I think in Syria or some stupid shit like that. But he's able to buy basically your tracking information from your cell phone, and he was able to track a bunch of people, people's cell phones. And then he started doing this thing where he started focusing in on areas and finding out, where, what cell phones were there. And, he was doing it for marketing purposes, because he says at the beginning he's a marketing guy. He started as some sort of marketing dude for, I don't know what company it was. I don't remember. I wasn't really paying too much attention to that because I was trying to get to this Vegas stuff. That, like I said, it's 2.5 hours in. But that's basically it. He traces and tracks cell phones around and finds out where people are, and then tries to figure out what they're doing, as far as that goes. But here, I guess he was called by the FBI, and he's not a government worker. He doesn't work for the government. He did a couple things, I think, before this, he said, for the government. I think a couple things after this for the government. But generally, he's not a government guy. Hello, everybody. Yeah, he's pretty dramatic. You're right. He's interesting the way he talks. He kind of seems like he's got a little bit of a self-esteem tick, which I'm not an analysis kind of guy, but he has a problem making eye contact a lot of times. When he talks, he shakes his head a lot, matter of factually and all that sort of stuff. So he's an interesting guy. It's a very interesting interview. He has a lot of weird facial interactions here.
He had traveled to the Philippines.
Paddock.
Yep. Was there connection to was there a terrorism connection? Couldn't establish it. Established the travel patterns.
So he says couldn't establish a pattern with Paddock and a terrorism connection here. And like I said, that's what he's doing. He's tracing basically his cell phones, trying to figure out where his cell phones have been and where, stuff like that. So that's what he's doing. He's trying to see, if his cell phones were in, Iraq or Turkey or something crazy like that. And then, if they went to, Vegas and stuff like that. But you'll hear what he came up with. And what he came up with is it's interesting. If it's legit, it means something. If it's not legit, don't mean shit. So, like anything.
To the Philippines, but nothing that indicated that there had been that there was this like ongoing link. It's funny, like I said, this was early days, and this is where intelligence and data can be very misleading. So I'm working with one of the analysts, kind of like training in real time. I step away for a minute, and this analyst is like, people are hovered around his workstation, looking at his screen, and they're looking. They had detected. Granted, this is a day after the shooting occurred. They observed devices that had dwelled at a place called Redstone Arsenal in Alabama, which is where they teach.
All right, so see, he's breaking down what he did here, right? So they went and got his cell phones, and they figured out where his cell phones had been. And I think he said this was it was the day after they found it out. They didn't say what the time frame was on when he was at this actual place. Redstone Arsenal, I'm not sure where it's at, but he'll explain it.
Kinetics and explosives and EOD. And so they were rushing, like somebody was at his house who has proficiency in explosives. And I'm like,
the way he worded that is interesting. Somebody was at his house. They have proficiency in explosives, some sort of government testing site or training site for doing explosives. So basically what he's saying is somebody came over to this dude's house, and, and this is through cell phone data, and they're basically tracking people through cell phone data. Now, he says earlier in the thing that, with cell phone data, they don't necessarily run off of names and stuff like that. They are looking as nebulous data as far as, there was a cell phone that went to whatever this testing site is. Then that cell phone ended up at Paddock's house at some point. So that's basically what he's saying, and that's what this guy basically does.
I look at it, like, holy shit, that's a big deal. Okay, so this is the day after, so he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Where are those devices now? Those devices were on another job because they were FBI devices. And they were about to ring the alarm that, there's some connection between, radicalized American who knows how to blow shit up because he spent regular time at Redstone Arsenal, which is where, if you're going to be an EOD tech, that's where you go to do your training across, DOD, FBI, ATF. That's where they train.
It's not sketchy at all, though. You know what I mean?
But it was, take a breath, before you're going to be the hero, like time. This is the day after. He has 2 houses. The other guy that got a knock and talk was his landscaper who was mowing the grass of both of his homes. And he was, like an illegal immigrant who had spent time in El Salvador.
Oh.
But we could not, there was no link to transnational terrorism in that.
What about the fact that they're,
All right, before he goes into this, because he's about to go off the fucking rails here. So basically what he's saying is he's linking Paddock to the government in some way as a government worker. And the way he's doing that is by saying that somebody showed up at his house that was at a federal training facility for explosives. And that's information. He's letting you disseminate that. He's not. And that's what I kind of like about this guy is, if it's legit, all he's doing is he's throwing out facts. He's throwing out the factual information. You figure it out what it means. I think that's the way a lot of this should operate. But it kind of makes you think, with the whole Mary Lou Danley, showing up on the FBI radar as far as the been verified websites and stuff like that. The way he describes this is somebody showed up at his house. So he's not talking about Paddock's cell phones, right? His 5 cell phones or whatever he had. I think he had 4 in the room, or he had 3 in the room with 4 different numbers. And then I think he had a couple more, if I remember right, according to the evidence list. But but he's not talking about Paddock's cell phone here. The way he worded that is somebody had been to his house that had been to this weird training site, right? And considering the guy had all that tannerite, laying around, it kind of makes you wonder. And the FBI tie with Mary Lou Danley kind of makes you wonder a little bit if this guy's legit. It sounds like he could be.
even if there wasn't a link to transnational terrorism, why did they push the story under the rug, and why were witnesses let's call it what it is, disappeared?
Yeah, I don't know.
Now that, like I said, Julian Dorey here has very limited information on this. He runs a podcast that he sounds like he's very busy with, so he's not really looking into a lot of these topics. He's having conversations with people who claim to have looked into these topics, and some of the people he has on the show are very conspiratorial, almost auto hoaxers. And, so that's very problematic. So in his head, he's kind of going off that. So he's off the reservation. He doesn't know he doesn't know really the information that's out there. And I don't think he's really studied too much of this outside of the random people he has on the show. And he has people on the show that talk about helicopters. He's going to bring up the Saudis here in a minute and all that sort of stuff.
I don't know.
So they pull you in the day after, you're pulling up this data. They're like, oh my God, was he working with someone inside on the government? And you're like, no, this is actually overlapping data that makes sense because that's where all these people would go. And he went there for training. That makes sense. Yep. At what point, how many days after did they say, okay, we've had enough of your services. Thank you.
Once the special agent in charge handed it back over to Vegas Metro.
This week, we're hosting a free trading and investing workshop.
Are you kidding me?
Right here in Irvine.
Hold on. Let's get through this.
Because there's no federal statute for the FBI to investigate. They left their forensic team to assist. But once there wasn't a terrorism link, it was done.
Yeah, there's some weird story out there. I guess I can't shoot anything down, no pun intended, but I can't say that nothing's off the table or whatever with that because it's so ambivalent and we literally got nothing out of it. The guy died obviously there and everything. There was
ambivalent or ambiguous. I think he mixes words up there, but Yeah, this is gonna start winding down here. Like I said, there's only a couple minutes. He named this Vegas shooter Paddock something, or but yeah, he only talks a couple minutes about this.
Some theory though that maybe the Saudis did it or something like that. I forget what was that, Joe. Someone was like in town or something, and they're like, "Oh, MBS might have wanted him dead because this is when he was taking power."
Or wasn't he on the same floor?
Something like that. I don't remember all of it, and I'm gonna fuck it up. So people in the comments, I'm sure, can help me out because you know it. But like, were you ever asked to look into anything like that?
If we were looking at the hotel and trying to establish who was there when he was there, and he was there a lot. Was there any overlap with anything that just wasn't normal?
Right.
Was there repeated overlap, or was there a similar overlap? Couldn't establish anything. There were foreigners there when he was there, but they were tourists.
Now, so basically, when you're getting pulled in, though, at these points, like it sounds like you were just like, "Oh, that's the guy." Whenever something happens, like, "Oh, go to him. He's the data guy." It seems like it was like that for a while.
Yeah, because with the bureau, you had a guy who was like, all hands on, any capability that we have, I'm bringing to the fight. With the bureaucracy, at the executive level, would they have been thinking like that? Probably not. But this is a guy who was, sort of tasked out of the Washington field office with advancing new capability, and he was all in.
Right. But that's a domestic thing. At what point do you start getting pulled into the international type stuff?
It happened.
So what was...
All right, so that's about it. That's about all he's going to do with Vegas. And that's about all I wanted to show off here. But it's interesting. It's interesting. It ties Paddock somehow to government agencies. And I don't know, man. You could watch this for yourself. I feel like this guy is kind of legit. He sounds pretty legit to me. He really does. Even though he's got some weird eye contact issue and he's got all kinds of stuff going on. But he probably grew up in the same generation I did where, you didn't make eye contact unless you want to fight somebody. So, there was a lot of stuff like that. Interesting Wired article on, I got to read this. On MY, it's it's like he taught the government how to cross-reference anon phone data. Okay. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like what this guy does. I mean, the way he explains it and my limited my limited understanding of what this guy does, he goes in, he finds a bunch of cell phone data and finds out, which cell phones are where. And then he kind of tracks those cell phones to where they go and what they do. And I think in the beginning, he said he was doing it for marketing purposes. So, he describes it very well. You go here, you go here, you go here. Well, we can tell that you're walking your dog. So maybe you need dog food, for instance. And so we'd market dog food to you or something of that nature. So he's, that's kind of that's how he started in all this. And then one day and he said he does all this from his house. He claims he wasn't a government employee in the beginning of all this, and he was just doing this from his bedroom, messing around online, checking this stuff out. And that's when he ended up finding out what a bunch of special forces were doing, or tracking their movements. And he went to the government with it. The government didn't believe him at first, and then that's how he kind of got his start, I guess, with all this stuff. And that's why he landed up, on this Vegas thing. But, the interesting thing is, it's like, well, he had somebody, and Julian sat there and he kind of put words in his mouth and said, oh, this guy was the one doing the explosive stuff and all that sort of stuff. That's not what he said. What he said was, he said somebody had been to the house. It'd be interesting if you actually knew this guy and you could find out the specifics, but he probably doesn't even remember at this point. But whether it was actually one of Paddock's phones that was running in and out of that house, or if it was somebody else, because he claims it's somebody else. Julian throughout this puts in his mouth that it was actually Paddock that was the one that was doing all this explosive nonsense. But the fact that he had all that tannerite in the car, that is it kind of lines up a little bit. Not completely, but a little bit. I mean, tannerite's a weird, strange thing. But I just want to share that because it's not something, it showed up on my feed yesterday. It's not something I think anyone's actually put out there. I don't think anyone's even put a link on the Discord for this thing. So I know some people have watched it, though, because I know some people are fans of them. But anyway, that's about all I wanted to share with this. I don't want to go too long on this one. Almost made it a half hour for a 5-minute clip. But if you want, like I said, the link's in the description. You can watch all about this guy. It's an interesting interview. I thought it was good. Problem is, it's like 4 hours long or something like that. Let's see. It's coming off way too dramatic for me. Yeah, he is pretty dramatic. He's like I said, he's kind of an interesting dude. All right. So, yeah, I think I'm going to end it on that. And, yeah, have a good day out there. Everybody stay safe in this crazy-ass world. And till next time.
Dude, pointed stick.
Pointed stick. Pointed stick.
Pointed stick.
Pointed stick.
Pointed stick?
Pointed stick.
Whoa, pointed stick.
That pointed stick.
Pointed stick.
Stick. We don't have any time for your trolling behavior on this channel. It just isn't welcome here. And so, good riddance to you.